to think back 75 years. And on this morning, 75 years ago, of course, the 5th of August, 1942, the sea was a little like this, fairly calm, of course. There was no fighting at that stage here. But on the way here, of course, the US 1st Marine Fleet in convoy were on the way with the HMS Canberra and other support ships and protection vessels coming to make the landing here on the 7th of August 1942. Henderson Airport, of course, at that stage was just a field under construction. Japanese Imperial Army groups were there, slowly building the airfield and set up camp there. So it was a very quiet and benign environment. And it's hard to believe, as we see it today, what it must have been like in those times, and what a shock and what amazement there must have been amongst the local people of Solomon Islands who lived quietly for thousands of years, to suddenly have this incredible battle, one of the iconic and most important battles of World War II, just about to take place where they lived.
The origins of the Solomon Scouts and Trust Board originated in 2009, and it was really a result of the coup that took place in the Solomon Islands, where there was the island of Malaysia and the island of Guadalcanal. There was no cohesion, and this created a division in the society and disarray. And one of the things, I've lived here since 1968, and whenever, over the years, when people spoke about the Solomon Scouts, the people who work with the Coast Watchers, they never said, I'm a scout from Malaysia Island or Isabel or West. They were always Solomon Scouts. One of the things I think has been the Trust's push is to really honour and say to the people of the Solomon Islanders, the young people, that you should be proud of what your forebearers, your Olos as they call them, the old people from before, have done for this country and for mankind. As it said, now the slogan, one of the slogans is, the Solomon Islands gave freedom to the Pacific.
A later history of the period said that the Solomon Islanders demonstrated, and I quote, an uncanny degree of capacity for interpreting military activity, sizing up what the Japanese were going to do next. Using traditional drums, they could pass messages more than 50 miles in 20 minutes. In late May, following the Japanese landings in Tulagi, which is across the Sound for those who are new to the Solomon Islands, the Scouts and Coast Watchers were able to give the district officer for Guadalcanal, Martin Clemens, based in Aola, further down the coast, notice that Japanese forces were preparing to land in Guadalcanal. The Solomon Islanders' contribution was essential in turning the tide in this theatre of war and in the World War as a whole. Their contribution deserves to be remembered now and in future, and I hope our gathering here today will help ensure that that happens.
Sutherland on the ground was caught in a tree and in the forest. And as any Solomon Islander knows, any white man in the bush, no good. Him die finish. A small boy named Bruno Nana spotted him. He took this wounded American pilot to his village, gave him food and drink, and then using his canoe, paddled him, concealing him, across Japanese lines, along the coast from the Banegi area to Lunga, and brought him to his friends, the Marines who had landed.
Over 6,500 Americans were left behind here in the Solomon Islands following World War II. Some of that may have been lost at sea. Some of that, as you heard, was lost right on the ground here. We leave no one behind. If at all possible, we try to come back over the years to recover whatever remains exist and to give them a resting place with honor and dignity, and to share the results with the family.
I'm never going to walk out in the bush and find an airplane on my own. I'm never going to walk through some jungle path and find a burial on my own. It's going to be someone who lives here, who works here, who spends their life here. That person is going to be the one who helps us find one of these American heroes, gets their remains back to the lab in the United States, and ultimately to get them buried back in the US with their families. So thank you to everyone who's worked with us before. It's been very helpful. We've had successes here in the Solomon Islands. Thanks to Justin, we work with him very regularly, along with other nonprofit organizations involved in World War II research and investigations. So thank you to everybody here for showing up today. And once again, anyone from the Solomon Islands, we are absolutely committed to working with you, and we need your help to do this job. Thank you.
We visited Barana Village earlier this week, and Henry Davis, his young son Willie, and gave us a very, very warm welcome, handed over to us the dog tags and remains, which we were very, very lucky to be able to promptly hand over to the DPAA team, who was just wonderful to work with. And so we're just delighted that PFC Ross's remains are going to be coming back home. I should say what we presume, what we hope to be his remains, but definitely his dog tags. And I think that means a great deal to his family.
And this is purposely for us Solomon Islanders. We need to be aware of our own histories. And I'm feeling very proud and fortunate to be with Sir Bruce Saunders, who directed me to that path to understanding my history, that as a Solomon Islander I can be proud of, and also help my other Solomon Islanders who have limited knowledge about that to also feel the same pride that I have. So education and tourism for me is the way forward, and I also again would like to stress that I believe as a Solomon Islander, and with the history of the war in general, that should be the way forward for me.